Welcome to the Entrepreneur Podcast, where we take a look inside the lives of the accomplished and successful businessmen and women. We'll get up close and personal with the founders of booming startups. So lean in and prepare to carry away something to skyrocket your own business. Please subscribe to our show and do leave us a review. It means a lot to us. Now, here's your host, Rajiv.
Hey listeners, welcome to the Entrepreneur Talk Show. I'm your host Rajiv Unikrishnan, and this is the show where we talk about entrepreneurship and speak to great founders. Today we have with us Nitin, Jain and Anupam, Sorabh, co-founders at Machadalo. Machadalo is your one-stop solution for your advertising needs. It helps you identify your multiple products and services and the related target group. Welcome, guys.
Thanks, Rajiv.
Thanks, Rajiv, for the nice introduction.
Just a brief intro. Let's start with Nitin. Nitin is the co-founder and CEO at Machadalo. Before this, he established the Mumbai operations of Oyo Rooms, and within 7 months, expanded operations to over 80 hotels. He also established and managed 2 research and analytics functions from scratch, which are Infolytics and PerkinElmer. He was awarded the Star Performer Award in various organizations, and his key strengths are building top-performing teams and scaling operations. Moving on to Anupam, he is the co-founder and the solution head at Machadalo. He has managed a team of 1,500 plus professionals and was working in a capacity of the executive VP for a mid-sized company in India, and was the first to introduce corporate processes in higher education industry. And he also managed to get a Silicon Valley company to successfully incubate in a Tier 2 city in Agra. Again, guys, welcome. And do fill in the gaps in the intro and do let us know what's going on in your world today.
So I think that's a nice introduction, Rajiv. You heard, most of it. And so currently we are building Machadalo. It's been almost a year since we started. Yeah. And the journey has been fantastic. Anupam and I, we started around the same time last year. And then we had people joining us from various verticals, various junctures of life, and it's been an exciting journey. Mm-hmm. And our model is very, very hyper-local advertising based. And through a data-driven and technology-driven solution, we are able to provide turnkey solutions for our clients within a hyper-local area.
Oh, great. So before we move on to business side, I see you all both have different passions outside of business. So for Nitin, it's food, travel, and for Anupam, it's NGOs, cricket, and ultra marathons. I'm a marathoner. So could you elaborate a bit more on that before we move on?
Sure. I've been a foodie since childhood.
Okay.
We all know.
So everybody knows about it, and it's a joke in Machadalo that, during meetings we end up discussing a lot about food,
Okay.
So I like to try different cuisines, and traveling is also another passion that I have. And whenever I get time, I do travel and see places. Yeah. I've also picked up running, and Anupam has been a great inspiration on that. He's the one who actually inspired me to run. So I've done a couple of half marathons, but no, I'm trying to pick up and see if I can increase my pace further.
Yeah. So for me, it was like cricket, my first passion, and then everything because of cricket, I was lucky to meet people of all kinds and go to all kinds of places. And that is where, the second passion is mathematics. So both these passions always, ensure that I meet a lot of people, discuss a lot of things. And then business was one of the things which we had to start, and nobody better than Nitin.
Okay.
So that is where we started. We both of us know each other for last 17 years.
Oh, wow.
So,
okay. So moving on into the obvious question. So what inspired the idea for Machado?
Yeah, so I think both Anupam and I, we have built several organizations in last 12 years for me, and almost 15, 16 years for Anupam.
Yeah.
The kind of experience we had. So as Anupam mentioned, we've been friends for a long time, and so we used to discuss on and off a lot of issues and challenges that we used to face in our jobs or different day-to-day activities. So while Anupam was working as executive vice president of Sharda University, he had a big budget to spend on advertising. He was kind of leading the entire marketing and advertising budget for them, which was to the tune of 25 to 30 crores per year, right? And that's when he realized that, when he started talking to various agencies, he realized it's a big problem. It's a big gap that no single agency is providing entire 360-degree offering in a hyperlocal area. Nobody has the data, the technology to kind of help you make your decision where you should go, why you should go, and how you should go, right? And around the same time, I was kind of developing and building Oyo rooms in Mumbai, right? And I was facing similar kind of problems with a smaller budget that I had to spend on advertising here.
Okay.
So when we started discussing together, we realized it's a big gap which currently no player is filling. And that's how we got into discussion and we started meeting each other, and that's how the entire story started.
Absolutely. So, like apart from that, we wanted to build an idea, which is very which has some abstract concepts around it. So, basically, advertising is a space and time based abstract.
Yep.
So, this is something where the need will always be there for advertising.
Right. Okay.
And we wanted to build fundamental solutions which questions the space and the time itself.
Okay.
So that is what we are doing at Machadalo. We are changing not only hyperlocal, but we are measuring and identifying inventory at sub-hyperlocal level.
Okay, got it. And so what's the vision for the company?
Sorry?
What's the vision for the company?
So 5 years down the line, we would like to, see that Machadalo not only caters to non-traditional, traditional and digital advertising space, but it changes the entire way advertising inventory is sold currently in the country. So we don't say like, okay, I want to do a pan-India campaign. Like for example, say Unilever may say, I am going to launch a pan-India campaign.
Correct.
I would like to say like, okay, I am launching say a campaign for a specific product where this TG is this, and I'm launching it in say 1,000 hyperlocal spaces. Okay. So the granularity basically changes. So it's something like the closest analogy is physics. Like say in physics we see till the world was seen at a macro level. People used to only talk reactions in systems at macro level. The moment things started happening at quantum level, people started talking things, like building models based on nuclear level and atomic level. The same way, today nobody says like the reactions happen at say macro level. Everybody talks from a nuclear level or an atomic level, which is much more granular than the macro system. The same way, advertising also needs to, needs to be sold in that way. Like I am Unilever, I need to advertise at these 1,000 hyperlocal spaces because this is where my target resides, and this is where exactly my product would find place. So why to waste and why to splurge? In other spaces where there is no requirement.
Okay. So I mean, who are the key people to take this product off the ground? I mean, was it only both of you all? Any other co-founders?
Yeah, so as we mentioned, Anupam and I, we started it last year.
Okay.
And since we do a lot of data crunching, we collect a lot of data from hyperlocal areas, and then we do a lot of data crunching, generate insights out of those, so that we can tell our clients where exactly they should go for advertising, right? So there was a dire need to get somebody from the analytics background.
Okay.
And that's when we started speaking to Pankaj, who is our third co-founder, and a very good friend of both Anupam and I. And we have actually worked with him in past also. So Pankaj and I, we had started a company together a few years back where Anupam was, was also involved as mentor in the company, right? So when we started to Pankaj comes with a very strong analytics background. He had a team of 100 plus people that he was leading in Musicma, which is one of the leading analytics companies in India. At Flipkart also, he was a part of analytics team, and that's why Pankaj came into the picture. And then we started offering solutions to our client. We realized that to close the loop, we need to add a digital layer, which is more like a pin code based hyperlocal digital that we should add. And that's how Naveen came into picture. So we are actually 4 of us now.
4 of you, okay.
Yeah.
And so before, when you thought of Machadalo, how did you all validate the product? Did you all do any MVP or did you all go to beta or do any testing as such? before?
So yes, so like the moment we had this idea, we one like we did multiple kinds of testing. We talked to various people because both Nitin and I have a lot of people who are heading marketing functions or business development functions from medium to large companies.
Okay.
So we bounced ideas to them, and we got a lot of valuable inputs. At the same time, we did ground level validations also. We met around 70 different kinds of businesses and told them about captured the needs what they had, and we found that their needs were pretty similar what I realized at Sharda University and Nathan realized at the rooms. Everybody was talking about like a solution which would ensure that their return on investment increases and they could reach their target audience like at in the most effective way, maximum multiple impressions
Okay.
basically.
Yep.
So the 70 validations which we did had all kinds of micro, small, medium, large businesses. Like initially we were of the thought process that only probably a few large businesses specific to education sector or say hotel industry, a couple of other sectors require it, and we also realized like micro, small businesses are the most like who require this as a dire need, and same goes with the large companies too.
Okay. Okay.
So yeah, so basically we spent around 2 to 3 months just validating the entire thing.
Okay.
And we met, as Anupam mentioned, we met different types of stakeholders, not just companies, we also different societies, we met corporate parks, we met people who are holding this advertising inventory to check their readiness or their adoption level for something like this, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
So fine. So while trying to read about the product, I mean, I read different terms. I read hyperlocal. I have read data analytics, big data. Just I'm trying to understand or let our listeners. How does it actually work?
So basically, like a client who would like to utilize our services identifies the product and service and what he thinks is his TG.
Okay.
Correct. And based on these inputs, we refine and ask detailed questions about TG related systems, etc. Then, as we capture around 200 data points from societies, corporate parks, so we exactly know which kind of TG lives where, in what proportion it lives. Correct. So based on that, we come up with a rough cut solution, and then further discussion happens. And here, like once we are coming up with a rough cut, we apply a top level data science to understand, like what exactly could meet the client's requirement.
Correct.
And together then we refine the communication, and once the communications are refined, then we identify like the different forms of inventory, advertising inventory, which should be used to capture leads or data impressions. And then we do a pilot, and again from pilot we get a lot of insights, and again using detailed data sciences. Over here I would like to add, like technology plays a big role.
Correct.
We are using technology at the back end, like to ensure that the release and the audit of the inventory happens in real time and gives you a true picture. So as we are scaling up, it's a cloud-based technology solution which we are using.
Okay.
We are going to even offer, like end-to-end campaigns where on a click of a button, people can choose based on their target group, where they are residing,
Okay.
what they are doing, and that is the whole idea.
Okay. Got it. And so, what's the revenue model like currently?
So revenue model is very simple. There are 2 or 3 areas from where we generate our revenues. One is, whatever advertising spaces we create at different entities, let's say residential societies, corporate parks, banquet halls, gyms, clubs, spas, right? We create a rack rate for them. So we have a predefined pricing mechanism through which we arrive to a particular pricing of a particular inventory, right? And when we tie up, we fix a price with them. So we put a small margin on that when we sell it to our clients, right? And then the entire execution that happens on the ground is done by our team. So we have a very strong operations team which does the entire execution of campaigns for our clients, right?
Okay.
So that's another way we earn some revenues from there. And third is tie-ups with third-party agencies. So there are a lot of clients who need end-to-end support in terms of fabrication, in terms of getting promoters for the event, in terms of printing and other stuff, right? So that's another area through which we make a small margin over there.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what's the competition like? I mean, I'm trying to research, but I couldn't find much. But I mean, are all the other media buying spaces the competition for you, or
So what I would suggest is like traditionally speaking, if you any large media house may
yeah,
see it
yeah,
as competition, but the difference is like one, they don't use data sciences at the hyperlocal or subgranular level which we use. Second, we have created new kinds of inventories while we were mapping the societies. Those inventories never existed. So basically, we have a hold of on that kind of inventory. We have basically done price discovery. We have created like types with the people who hold those inventory. So it is
okay,
something, say 150 years back, somebody identified a hoarding based inventory, and then say throughout US he got say 5,000 hold of such 5,000 hoardings. So in that case, he has a premium. So the same way, because we have created certain kinds of inventory,
mm-hmm.
so the premium comes in. Second, as we are a hyperlocal solution, so we try to keep the like area of focus very small, and over there we create multiple impressions. Whereas majority of the big companies, they like spread their budget too thin, so they may do digital
Correct.
at the entire city level. So competition wise, you may say like, okay, if you ask someone, yes, are you offering those services, they might say yes, but in terms of the mechanisms followed, the processes followed are very different.
Okay, okay. So moving on to funding, I think last month or in May 2016, you raised around 175K in a seed round from various IIT alums and different entrepreneurs. So was this your first round, and what's it primarily being going to be used for?
Yeah, so we had a very small earlier round, which was done by Mr. Ajit Khurana.
Oh, before this?
Yeah, before this.
Okay,
So
okay,
that was somewhere in September, if I'm not wrong.
okay,
And so this is actually our, you can say it's our first big round.
okay, okay.
We call it that way, right? And the proceeding of this round will primarily be utilized for building our operations within Mumbai,
Got it.
and also to strengthen our technology-based platform. Yeah,
Okay.
so majority of funding will go into these two.
And was this second round a tough one considering the current scenario and funding has totally clamped?
So we had a lot of people who put trust and faith on us, and
Excellent.
that's primarily because the strong business model that we have,
Yeah, yeah.
the kind of disruptive model we have come up with, and the kind of potential it has overall, and the strong team that we have formed. So it wasn't that difficult, frankly.
Excellent.
In fact, we had to say no to few of the questions because we had this figure in mind which we wanted to raise.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
And what's the team size currently?
So currently we are a team of 35 people,
Okay.
but it's a mix of both full-time and interns who are working for us. So around 16 is the full-time employees that we have, and remaining 18 to 19 people are interns who are there with us for some time, next 2 to 3 months.
I mean, and both of you all have been in this space for so long. I mean, the whole entrepreneur space. What do you see are the key challenges faced by startups in India in terms of at least starting the business, funding, scaling up, etc.?
So, the ecosystem has only recently started improving, and now even before, we could reach a threshold, again, people are finding it challenging to raise
Yeah.
investments. So, the ecosystem was like, it was never heard like in India, like before year 2009, that companies raise funds at very infancy level. But around the year 2009 and 10, things started changing. The biggest challenge is like majority of the startups today are not revenue and profit focused. Their target is more to how many apps have got downloaded, how many, like what is the frequency of the visit, and it's all a discount based model.
Yeah, yeah.
And in Indian customer is extremely price sensitive, so he also he ensures that he keeps hopping between different apps wherever the best price is offered. Unlike like US or Europe, where people give a lot of value to quality and other kinds of deliverables. In India, price sensitivity is extremely high.
Okay.
So models which are primarily not around revenue and profit, correct, are not going to
Succeed.
succeed in
Yeah,
India.
yeah.
and especially recently in last 2 to 3 years, because of very conducive environment, you have seen a lot of startups popping up, right?
Yep.
But again, if your revenue model is funding, then that's not the business model you should be in, right? So you should always believe in building sustainable business models which can sustain on their own
Yes.
without having to worry about next round of funding.
Yes. Yeah. So moving on out of business, first, Nitin, who influenced you most in life?
Well, there were various people at different, juncture of life who have influenced. So some of them, Eckhart Tolle, the author of Power of Now. I'm very, very influenced by this guy because I do believe in spirituality. Sri Ravi Shankar, Mahatma Gandhi, Mark Zuckerberg, and in fact, my own father, he's been an inspiration to me. He's been a big fighter coming from a modest background. He had actually done a lot for us, right? And always given us very good kind of fundamentals. So, yeah.
And what is some of the best advice you have received?
So some of the best advices, I would say one. So when I was getting into IIT, I still remember my father told me that when you are climbing up the stairs, always respect people who are walking down the stairs because those have already been there and they have probably seen much more than what we have seen in life.
Very true.
So always have respect for them. So I always remember these words. And I remember one of my bosses, he told me that every morning when you wake up, you should figure out all the positive things you are going to achieve in the day and don't let your day end before you achieve all of those.
Okay, excellent. Okay. So, Anupam, who influenced you most in life?
So, like the principal driver was my mother, and
Okay.
like Nitin and I agreed to name this company. She is not with us anymore. So, in her honor, Vijay Kirti Technologies Private Limited.
Okay.
So, apart from that, I have been influenced again by Eckhart Tolle. Both Nitin and I are fan.
Okay.
So, J. Krishnamurti is another person who has inspired me a lot. Osho, Shri Ravi Shankar, and there are many. I keep on looking for inspirations right from like the sports world to the cinema world to politics to philosophers to thinkers.
Okay.
So that is where. So we actually Nitin and I we had discussed. I think in last 17 years, first would be food and second would be about spirituality.
And who was some of the best advice you've been given?
So the best advice was given by a few of my seniors who used to work with me at ENY. They were pretty talented. One of them was one of the best ethical hackers, and he used to constantly say, Anupam, you are an aggressive person, but show this aggression internally, correct, and that is going to take you a long way. Internal aggression is one of the most important things, and I think as entrepreneurs we need to, or even I need to keep in mind this particular aspect.
Very true.
Internal
Yeah.
aggression.
I mean, so both of you all have worked in corporate jobs. So when did you all know you all were meant for entrepreneurship?
So for me, right from college days, I always wanted to start something of my own. So I was part of entrepreneurship cell of IIT Bombay. Worked there for 2 years in the capacity of manager.
Okay.
Yeah. So in fact, after my first job itself, which I did for about 2 years, I started my first venture with few friends from IIT and ran it for about 2.5 years before Lehman Brothers happened, and that's when we also had to close down.
Correct.
But yeah, I mean, always wanted to start again, and that's how it happened. When I spoke to Anupam.
Okay. And Anupam?
So, I always, see that even, large companies need not function in the way they do. For me, it is always, they should function in a way which now what they call is like startup ecosystem.
Yeah.
So, whether it was professional consulting, whether it was, big education groups, or this is like my third stint in startup, and apart from that with two startups I've been involved very closely as mentor or strategic advisor. So apart from that I've also been involved with multiple NGOs So over there also it was like a like you demonstrated with a successful pilot. So it's actually nothing but your first 4 months in a startup, correct,
Okay,
with minimal
okay.
budget.
Yeah, yeah.
So these 7 or 8 like different kinds of experiences, I have realized that these inspire me maximum, and I can deliver the best in such a scenario.
Okay.
So it's something like startup comes naturally to me. That's what I feel.
And I mean, over time, have you all, either of you all, like just, over the many years, just reached a certain point or lowest point where you all wanted to completely give up, or you all have not reached that point yet?
Uh, so, so if you look at the entire startup journey,
Yeah, yeah, correct.
it's always filled with challenges,
Yeah.
right? And challenges are not just limited to the day-to-day activities that you do, but they also involves a lot of emotional, balance which is required, a lot of personal finance management which is required,
Right.
expectation management from family members, right? So startup journey is always filled with challenges, right?
Yes, yes.
So personally, I've been through situations when there have been a lot of financial crisis at home, and your savings were depleting, right? But you had salaries to pay for,
Yeah.
for another month, right? So a lot of personal cash management, cash flow management becomes very, very important,
Yeah.
right? But I think that's where your family comes as a pillar, as a support for you. So with a very supportive better half, I've been able to pull off it really well
Okay.
presently. Yeah.
I mean, so both of y'all would probably be involved in the hiring process of the company. So if someone wants to join Machadalo, what's the first things y'all are looking for in that person?
So, though attitude is the most misused word, but both Nitin and me are looking for the right attitude. Now, when we say right attitude, it means, there needs to be a passion and to get the things done, rather than just coming up with questions, but also coming up with solutions. And we have an act to identify that, certain kind of people will be able to will carry this attitude and certain will not. So we invest in raw talent and raw potential too. We are not always looking for the exact skill set which may be required for the job, because those can be picked on the way very easily.
Right.
But for certain kinds of jobs, we also are specific when it comes to technology. We look for good analytical skills and say a certain blend of technological understanding.
So as it popularly known, if you go to LinkedIn or any other channel,
Correct.
everybody mentions that we are looking for rock stars. So there are limited rock stars in this world. So we are looking for rocks, people who are solid as rock, who can take initiative, who can drive things on their own. And as Anupam rightly mentioned, attitude is the most important thing that we look at.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so where do you all see yourselves and the business, let's say, in the next 2 to 3 years?
So I think in terms of geographical expansion, I would say we plan to be present in top 20 cities in India at least over the next 2 years.
Okay.
Right. We want to cater to all the hyperlocal areas in all these cities. And in terms of our solutions offering, we want to become a one-stop shop for all your advertising needs. Right. So as Anupam mentioned initially, though our model starts from hyperlocal, non-traditional advertising, but the model remains valid for traditional advertising as well. So we plan to bring in a lot of traditional advertising on board and create a 360-degree view for any advertising need that you may have.
Okay, got it. Oh, great. All the best here. So finally, guys, any last thought or piece of advice that you may have missed that you want to give our aspiring founders?
Well, from my side, I would say, focus more on monetization, more on revenue, than constantly looking for avenues to raise money. End of the day, what would matter is how much sustainability you have brought to the entire system, to the entire ecosystem, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
The second thing is, there will be a lot of challenges, even say after doing successful pilots, you may not be able to raise it to the next level or come with a nice MVP. I think pivot is one of the most important thing. You need to constantly keep pivoting.
Yeah.
Ground level validations needs to be done, and those validations need to result into real time pivots. correct?
Okay.
So, organizations, startups which fail to pivot and go with the philosophy which they identified, the philosophy, basically the vision and the strategy still remain the same.
Yep.
But the product and the services should keep changing. So in Machadalo's case also, we have been changing our product and services. We have been very dynamic at it.
To keep innovating, right?
Yes.
And if you ever feel like giving up, think of all the good reasons why you started,
Exactly.
and you will definitely find one to continue.
Correct. Okay. And please let our listeners know how they can reach both of you all and also Machadalo.
So I would request you to visit our website, www.machadalo.com. You can also go and like our Facebook page, and our email IDs are there, our contact information is there. Feel free to get in touch with us. My ID is nitin@machadalo.com. Anupam says anupam@machadalo.com.
All right.
So look forward to hear back from you.
Superb. Again, Nitin, Anupam, thanks for taking the time to talk to us and inspiring our listeners to start their own ventures. And all the very best building and scaling Machadalo.
Thanks a lot, Rajiv, for your time and inviting for this show.
Yeah. Thanks for having us there.
So do visit machadalo.com and do visit theasianentrepreneur.com to get the show notes and also subscribe to the show on the various platforms available and leave a review on your thoughts about this show. Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you for listening, and please subscribe to the show so you don't miss an episode. Our hope is that you are encouraged by what you've heard, and you can put these same concepts and mindsets to use with your own style. See you next time as we discover more about what it takes to be an accomplished entrepreneur. In the meantime, head over to theasianentrepreneur.com and check out show notes and other information to motivate you in your entrepreneurial endeavors.